Young, Martial is isolated. Skirtle here. Oh, yes! Welcome to Manchester United, Anthony Martial!
Liverpool and PSV send United Jekyll and hide behind the sofa. It's Shaw and United's road to recovery next on the United Chat. Just gets better every time, doesn't it? Anthony Martial, 3-1, United beat Liverpool, and that's where we're going to start this week with myself, Nick, and producer Joe. Welcome to the show, boys.
Hello, you all right?
You all right? You sound a bit ill this week.
I think we should get this out of the way early doors. As we announced on last week's show, Nick and I have been on a stag do in Benidorm, and let's just say the air conditioning filter probably hasn't been done for about 20 years.
Yeah,
So
it's just the aircon, Andy.
just the aircon.
Nothing
That's
to do with
it.
anything
That
else.
was all it was. So you might have to bear with us a bit, but we're here and we're battle hardened and we're ready to go. And we're kicking off, of course, with the Liverpool game where it all began, of course, on Saturday Night Football. I'd say we won 3-1. Overall assessment of the game, I'll kick off with yourself, Nick. You were sat there by my side watching it with me. Thoughts on the game? How did it go?
I thought it was a lot better than previous week, especially against Swansea. I thought we controlled the game a lot more. First half especially, even though we didn't really create anything. Van Gaal said after the match, first half, he saw that as the better half. I thought Schweinsteiger was brilliant, personally. I thought he was very good, and he's getting better and better as the games go by. And obviously Anthony Martial. You know,
What a moment.
What a moment, yeah. Martin Tyler, did he have money on it?
Yeah, I think so, from the sound of it, didn't he? But as you touched on there, Nick, in saying the first half of the game, I mean, LVG comes out after the game and says he preferred the first half to the second half. One of the dullest halves of football I've watched. I don't know how you felt, Joe. You were at the game.
You know what? I think it was actually the football was exciting-ish. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't attacking like we all expected. But I think the first half an hour we started it a bit like we did all the rest of the Premier League games. It looked like we had a chance.
It was a strange one, the first half.
It was a strange one, but I think, again, we looked in control, which wasn't a bad thing. I don't think Liverpool got in our half for the first 40 minutes, and then they had the odd touch in our half. If you look at the possession, it's got to be... You weren't going to break down that defence easily, let's all be honest. When teams are putting 10 players behind the ball, we're not going to start breaking it down in the first 45 minutes. They're all fresh-legged. Yeah. So it's going to take that little extra. I think it was a bit harsh to take Memphis off at half-time. I think that was a bit of a bad decision. I think Young could have... I didn't see Mata do much in the game. I think that would have been a better approach.
I mean, the Mata thing, he was poor again, and it's becoming a worrying trend, which we're going to go on to further when we touch on the PSV game, but he was poor. Memphis, again, I thought was pretty poor.
Memphis was incredibly poor.
First 15 minutes, Memphis our best player.
I disagree with that quite a lot.
Had the most time on the ball. Didn't do an awful lot with it, but
I thought he was very average, personally.
Put a few crosses in that we've not seen United able to do in a while. Yeah, they didn't come out or anything.
No,
but
I think what LVG meant was, if you look at the first half from a tactics point of view, we absolutely dominated Liverpool. And a few seasons ago, I think it was when Moyes was in charge, they came to Old Trafford and we couldn't get the ball off them. I think it was similar stats to what we had against them. So there is a significant improvement there.
Do you think the intensity of the rivalry is gone? Because that first half, as I touched upon, just passed by without incident. I mean, has the rivalry on the pitch dampened? Certainly in the crowd, the fans certainly have it, but I didn't feel it on the pitch.
I think it's United in general. I don't think they view Liverpool as a threat as much as they used to, because they're not, in my personal opinion. I don't think they can compete anymore.
It's not the rivalry's gone. I think that it's the way United are currently playing. I think we're playing with that possession in mind. I think that there's only one option for United against teams like that to try and retain possession. It made it a bit more exciting. It made it, rather than sitting on the edges of our seats, we're stood up cheering for our club, which is better than we have been doing for the past 2 seasons.
I think Liverpool are a living example right now of a manager who doesn't really have a sense of direction with what he's going. He seems to buy players that are the flavour of the month. Obviously the Benteke's, the Firmino's, Kleins, these are players that had really good seasons the year before, and he's paid a lot of money for them. He's just expecting them to step up, but they're not Suarez, Sturridge or Sterling.
Well, I saw Liverpool. I think everyone's getting on Rodgers' back now. So, but he has the third best stats for Liverpool in their last 10 managers.
Yeah,
so
but
it's 52% win rate or something. So I think that Liverpool are just, what are they moaning about? It's just they can't draw players to the club. A bit like ourselves, we're struggling to get these big names in.
The thing with stats, right? Liverpool signed a player in Benteke who scored the most headed goals over the last few seasons, and Liverpool are a team that have the least crosses out of all the Premier League teams. So there's no sort of strategy there. He's just literally just buying a player and throwing money at him. You know,
I don't think we should.
And that's what dampens the rivalry a
go
lot.
on too much about the Liverpool side of things.
No,
Let's leave them with their own issues.
It's the reason why the rivalry is dampened is because they can't compete as well as they used to.
I mean, I think Joe makes a good point on the control of the game being better from United, and perhaps that taking the intensity out of it on the pitch. Because certainly in the crowd, when Martial scores, you see it in the fans still.
Well, I didn't see a United fan sit down for the whole 90 minutes of the game. My legs were so sore after the. But that's the point. I think that United looked in control, and I think that was a nice feeling. The past three times we may have beaten them. We may have beat them 3 times on the bounce, but they were not comfortable wins. Whereas we had Suarez going through that year. We had Sterling last year. De Gea having to make the great saves he did last season. But this year we had none of that. I know Benteke scored an absolute worldie, but you can't stop that.
That's a goal of the season contender.
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
That always happens to United.
But we looked in control from the start, and even when we went 2-0, 2-1 down, 2-1 up, we stepped up straight away.
Did we look more
and
fluid
scored.
in attack without Rooney?
I think we look more fluid, but I think we look more temperamental. I think it doesn't look as structured, which I kind of miss in United. I think I sent a message to you saying I'm missing Rooney.
I wasn't.
Well, I mean, the thing is, when you look at the way that we sort of set up in terms of pace going forward, there was more about us. We looked dangerous on the attack. Rooney.
It was the same against PSV, though. I know we lost a game, but we looked very good going forward.
Do you not think that lack of rivalry is down to the players are now just... It feels like we're just doing a job, the club. It feels like they're just playing for... It could be playing for any team.
It's the time we live in. We're not challenging at the moment, neither are Liverpool.
Yeah, but you have players like Rooney on the pitch, it adds passion to the game, it adds that spark. So I think that's what's missing. I think the big players that mean a lot to the club, there isn't many playing on the pitch at the moment. There's no club legends, so there's not going to be that rivalry. There's no Stevie G, there's no Rooney, so there's not that big... do you know what I'm saying?
It's a fair point. I mean, Rooney does certainly come with a lot of passion when he's got his game face on, so I understand that point of view. Nick, I want to move on, though, to another player that returned in there that we saw a very good reception for, of course, in David De Gea. The contract situation now sorted, of course, was beat by an absolute worldie by Benteke. But what were your thoughts on De Gea's return?
It was all right. I didn't think he did anything outstanding, but he didn't do anything poor. He couldn't do anything for the Benteke goal. I won't judge De Gea for a couple of games yet. You need to let him get back into the rhythm of things. He's a world-class goalie, arguably top 3 in the world right now. I've got no concerns about De Gea. I still think even if he goes to Madrid next year, I still think we'll get a professional 12 months out of him.
And Joe, in terms of the De Gea performance, I mean, thankfully wasn't as much for him as there was last year at Old Trafford against Liverpool. Did it feel like the back line was safer with him back between the sticks?
Well, there was still a few occasions where I think De Gea was playing. I think he was playing to the cameras a bit. There was a few odd, but then you got to look at the saves he made, and you got to think, would Romero save a few of them? I know we were all quick to jump on his back, but I think that it's just consistent. Again, it's a keeper that is going to keep you in the game. So I think we needed that, and I think it was nice to see that the odd ball that made it through. I mean, Blind played as a keeper at one point in the game. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, Blind was superb again, to be fair. Got man of the match on the day, and I know there's a point you wanted to raise on Daley Blind whilst we're just touching on him, Nick.
Well, he keeps getting all the plaudits, and rightly so. He's playing well apart from that Swansea game, which I thought he was very poor. One of the things I have to say, is he getting all the credit because he's playing out of position and it's more noticeable? Because I think it is. I think that's why he's getting all the credit.
I mean, Joe, I'll let you go on that first.
No, I don't think it is, because you've got to... I mean, is it a good thing? Why raising that point is kind of saying...
You take Smalling out of that back 4 and you put someone like Johnny Evans next to Blind, it's totally different. It is totally... Smalling is the main guy.
Johnny Evans is an unfair comparison, though.
Oh, obviously.
You're focusing on a player and saying they're playing well, but is that because he's out of position? I think he's playing well because...
No, I'm not saying he's playing well because he's out of position. What I'm saying is...
Are we noticing it?
He's doing a solid job, yeah, and he's had one bad game, but in the game that he got man of the match against Liverpool, I think he got man of the match, was it against Villa? So, he's had 2 decent games, But I think it's more with the players around him than actual Blind himself. I don't think he's done a great deal to justify it. I think he commands the back line, but I think Smalling does that as well.
But do you think a player could have been doing the job that Blind's been doing? I think it's been
Definitely.
great to see a ball-playing defender like that. It's been great to see. We've had, that's where the control's coming from, because people like Blind in the back are playing the ball out and we're keeping control of it rather than panicking.
I think
and just hoofing it up.
I think there was options out there this summer that wouldn't have cost us against Swansea, personally.
But
well, maybe
I
not.
think it's a great bit of formation. It's
a good bit of business from United. It didn't cost us anything. It was a player we already had.
I just find it worrying that United fans are starting to come around to the idea that Blind is a long-term centre-back. Rio and Vidic.
But where else would you play him?
He might not be a top-class centre-back.
Where do you put Smalling and Blind in par with Rio and Vidic?
That's just no one's going to see that partnership in the next 10 years.
Have we seen that?
Have we seen that in the Premier League in the last 10 years, or will we see it in the next 10 years? No, I don't think we will. So at the moment, having them two solid at the back, nobody should be moaning about it.
I've got to say, I'm backing up Joe on this one, Nick.
I disagree. I don't think.
I think I know where you're coming from in terms of the it being more noticeable because he is playing a different role, but Daley Blind is capable of playing that role. He is, at the end of the day, a utility player. And yes, he's not going to ever be world class. But when you look at Mascherano being repositioned,
are we going to challenge for the league with Blind at centre half though?
Mascherano did it. He didn't.
With
do it
respect
the
to
Premier
them,
League.
they play in a lesser league than we do. You saw what Gomez did to Blind. Are we going to challenge for the title
against top class opponents? He might not be the long term option.
So he's not a Manchester United option. That's what I'm saying. It's not
only against the top class teams. So you have to have a team, not just a team of Galacticos.
I know you have to have a team, but we have to have a long. This is what I'm saying.
Who would you play there then, next to Smalling? Who
I'd rather have Rocco.
You would?
Yeah, I'd rather have. If Shaw was fit, I would have had.
But
Rocco.
a couple of weeks ago, you were saying that Rocco looked unfit.
Yeah,
like
because he's been injured and he's come back from Copa America. I'm not saying he won't be there long term.
Would another player who is just going to win the ball back for you and then just put it anywhere, is that a better option than a player who's got a cool
Blind is always
head?
going to get shown up for pace. That's the main issue I have with him.
He might well do, but what I'd say on this is that I've noticed with Blind is, and I mentioned it to you, Nick, the person who's bringing out and dropping that back line in and being the clever player out the two is Blind. Smalling has got a lot more pace, so Blind has to counteract that by being an intelligent player, and to be fair, he has been, all but Gomez, which I agree he did have a poor game against. He did well against Benteke at the weekend.
Well,
I just disagree. I think I agree with you when you say he's a stopgap, and against the lesser teams that's fine, and I agree with that totally. But when I mentioned about challenging for the title, you just looked away. And
I think he's done a more decent job than you and a lot of United fans and myself thought he'd do, though. He will do a very good job.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying he's not done a bad job.
So he deserves plaudits.
I'd still rather have Rocco next to Smalling and Blind.
There's got to be a reason that he's not playing there, Rocco, because there's got to be something in.
He's not been match fit, has he? He came back late. So
well,
I think the fitness thing for Rojo is going to be an issue for a while. I can understand Nick wanting to play him there because certainly I thought overall that Rojo's a better centre-back, but I don't think anyone can debate that Daley Blind has come in and done beyond the job that we thought he'd do for United. I'm going to move this on and just get some fan thoughts on the Liverpool game because we're going to have a quick chat through the PSV game and where that went wrong midweek after such a good weekend as well. We've got one here from Cogsy666 says a cliche, but a game of two halves, absolutely. First half was 2 out of 10, second half 8 out of 10. That's a poor average based on what you're going for there. Copious Opium says first half frustrating, second half better, steady upward curve continues, 7 out of 10. It was a very good game. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. The Martial goal was beautiful to watch, and obviously a win over the Scouts is always a good thing as well. But let's move on to the midweek antics, of course. That was Tuesday night, which has brought us all down, really, I think, a bit, from what was a lovely weekend. Joe, the PSV game, I'll start with you. Overall assessment, where did it go wrong?
Do you know what? I'm going to upset people here by saying this, but I think the result didn't even matter, purely because of Shaw. I think whatever the result, everyone would have been a bit down from the game. I think if we won 1-0, it was an absolutely scruffy match, and we saw the formation. I've just seen on the notes, but we see all the formation people have been wanting. I think I sent a tweet to you saying this is what people have been asking for. So why is no one happy, and why is it not working? And purely because I think we lost the structure, and I think there was no control in the game, and I think we were just panicking and going for them magic moments and not thinking about how we could keep control of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Nick, and I completely agree with what you had to say on that. Early doors against PSV and in parts later on as well, we looked so dangerous, really fresh and quick going forward. And I think Martial added a lot to that. Did you think the Shaw injury perhaps took the sting out of United? Was that what it was?
No, I think we're just really unlucky. I don't like the word luck, but I thought we did enough to at least get a draw out of the game. I thought PSV were very lucky to end the match with 10 men, and how Hector Moreno, or Moreno, whatever you call him, the Mexican centre-back, how he didn't get sent off for that challenge was ridiculous. And he actually to add insult to injury, he got man of the match at the end of the game as well. No, it's absolutely ridiculous. If it happened to another team, they'd be up in arms about it. I just think it's rotten luck at the end of the day and very, very poor refereeing.
So, I mean, of course, the tackle, of course, obviously Shaw's horrific injury could have got him a sending off without a doubt.
That would have changed the game and the result.
It didn't, though.
Exactly.
So, what happened to United after that?
Well, obviously, like you just said, distractions, and I think a very naive United team as well. Like the United teams of old, especially with Fergie there, I don't think we would have thrown as many forward away from home as we did, especially when we went 2-1 behind. At one point, it looked like, the Bayern Munich match, where we threw everyone forward because Evra scored a goal. It looked similar to that again. We just threw players forward. It was very naive. It was very stupid. They had really quick wingers and fullbacks. They had that Brennett, who I think he got man of the match, and he was lightning quick.
Yeah, very good.
So they just took us apart at the end of that, really, and we couldn't really get back into it. And then Mata, that chance.
Well, I'm going to bring you in on this, Joe, because, I mean, the shake of the head, as Nick mentions, Mata says it all, really. Such a disappointment. We've touched upon seeing the team sheet, seeing the formation, and thinking, finally, this is what we've been asking Van Gaal for. One Mata, Joe. What happened?
Do you know what? I'm confused by Mata. Because he's gone from... He should have been... This was his game to prove that number 10 role was his. Because now these players like Rooney, when come back fit, can play in that role. So we might be seeing Mata sticking on the right. And I think it was his time to try and work his way into the number 10 role. And I think he just did such a poor job of it. I think he had no vision. It just looked like he was trying to play on his own. I didn't see anything from him. I think Herrera, he looked lost on the team, to be honest, this week. And I think it just looked like a team that reminiscent to last year. I'm completely baffled by it.
I disagree with that. I thought Herrera was worse than. I didn't think Mata was as bad as everyone's saying. And to rule him out playing number 10 based off one game that he got chucked in at Europe that he probably didn't
I'm not
expect.
saying that, but I'm saying that was his chance.
That was
the audition.
He should be given a run, though. He shouldn't be one singular game away from home in a team that he's probably never even heard about before. He should be in a Premier League match. He should be given at least 4 or 5 games to prove himself, not one game.
Yeah, how long are we going to keep saying, let's give players 4 or 5 games?
We've given Memphis 4 or 5 games. I don't understand why we can't give Mata 4 or 5 games.
Memphis has scored 2 goals for it. Well, 3
He's
goals.
done absolutely nothing in the Premier League, though.
My concern is, though, as Joe mentions, when Rooney comes back in fit,
he'll still be on the bench for me.
Herrera isn't going to play in that pivot position. He's going to have to play in the number 10 role in the new system we've adopted.
That comes back to Van Gaal's issue with Rooney. He's put himself in a corner. I personally would keep the same team against Southampton away. I thought, even though we got beat, another game, another night, we would have battered PSV.
I think Young was poor, to be honest. I think that
they were all, in
I think swapping Memphis
poor,
and Young, helped quite a lot, because I think Young couldn't get even a ball past the player. I think that it just looked like we lacked a bit extra final third pass again.
I saw someone on Twitter, but it was a good defeat. And by that they meant we played well, but we still got beat, and I have to agree with it.
I do think that, like you say, the referee had a big part of that. Every free kick that we got, it was always something. He was always interrupting everything we did. It was like it was his game, and he made it about him. And I think that doesn't help. I think it breaks up the game. But I do think that it was a poor Man United performance.
Yeah, I don't think Mata was as poor as everyone was saying. I thought he was all right, and give him a running team, he could definitely flourish there. I thought Herrera was poorer out of the two, personally. But obviously the whole team was arguably very poor on the night, but still I thought it was a decent performance. Even though we got beat, a bit of luck here, a bit of luck there, we would have battered them.
It wasn't the worst performance I've seen by any means. I thought we played okay.
You watched the first 15 minutes back before the Shaw injury, and we looked like we were going to have 4 or 5 goals. And then as soon as that, I do get that there was a slight dampener to the game, and I think that it does affect the players, but they should be professional enough to think, well, let's get back into the game.
It affected us at home watching.
The one thing that worried me about the entire the game itself was the game changers on the bench. Fellaini, Valencia. We had Robin van Persie, we had Javier Hernandez, we had Adnan Januzaj, and he's let them all three go and he's not replaced them. And we need a goal away from home in Europe, and he brings on Microphone Head and Tony V.
Yep.
Who's got no left foot.
The squad depth
is
seems
ridiculous.
to
It's getting to the point where teams can play at the halfway line with their defensive line because they can outpace us. They can outpace Fellaini. Martial is the first player that we've seen who can probably outrun their defence. But when you look at Rooney, Valencia, Valencia's missing a yard of pace at the moment, and Fellaini, there's no need for them to play a deep back four. So teams are just rolling us over because of that.
I just think Pereira needs to eventually get a start. I'm praying and fingers crossed it's the next couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, they have to, really. I mean, you look at the squad depth that you just picked on there, Nick. I mean, Fellaini and Antonio Valencia as two players to come in and save you in an away game in Europe in the Champions League.
I'd expect Swansea to have a better bench than that.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no match winner there for me at all. It's the same option. Everyone is learning to play against our plan B. There is no point having a plan B if you know what the plan B is.
It seems to be sit back, let them have the ball. Well, they will eventually lose the ball, and then put two fast wingers on the pitch and counter them. That seems to be the way.
A blueprint that's working time and time again, isn't it? So maybe it could be a chance to give the youngsters a chance. Pereira should certainly, after his pre-season, be in there somewhere. James Wilson as well isn't going out on loan now. We're here tonight. And that's got to be a good thing because striking options we are short of.
They both got pace in abundance. They should be given a chance.
James Wilson in the stands for the game, and I can't understand why. I mean, you've got two young players who you could easily rotate in that team to give them both an opportunity to make their mark on the match, and you leave one sat in the stands watching the game. It makes no sense, and I think this comes down to Van Gaal's giving a lot of chances to the youth, and I think that a few have let him down, e.g. Januzaj. I think he's afraid to put them on.
Well, I mean, LVG's been given a lot of flack so far, and I'm going to end with this for the United chat before we move on to the fan takeover. You mentioned it a couple of minutes back, Joe, about seeing that team on paper, thinking, finally, LVG has listened to the fans. Here's a team we wanted, formation, players. It was pretty much spot on what we could have asked for. And against a bang average PSV side, they did nothing. It wasn't the worst performance as we've discussed, but we should be winning games like that. And is it time, Nick, that players start to take some of the blame for this rather than just getting LVG all the time?
This has been staying back from Moyes' days. Players sort of got away with it then. But we have got rid of a lot of the deadwood. That's one of the positives you can take from it. But still, like Joe said, Ashley Young wasn't very good. He has the good game here, but then he has the odd bad game. There's no consistency. I just think it has to be given to kids now. He has to give them a chance. He has to let them step up. The likes of Wilson, the likes of Pereira, keep coming back to it. They need to be thrown in just to see what they can do because there's no fear there and there's pace in abundance.
Definitely. If you've got any thoughts on anything that we've discussed during the United chat, some disagreement within the studio, so certainly be interested to see what you have to say on Twitter. We're at We Follow United, of course, on Twitter. Do get in touch on any of those topics. Is it time players took the blame? Let us know. We've got the fan takeover coming up next with more debates. It's time then to hear what you, the fans, have had to say on some of the big debates surrounding Manchester United this week. Every Monday, we put a number of tweets out there. We have fan polls, we've got your opinions that we want to hear, and we always get some brilliant responses from this. And we have got some fans for a phone in joining us shortly as well, which is always absolutely brilliant to hear from you. We're going to kick off with this one, Nick, and this is right in your ballpark, this one.
Oh, yes, I'm rubbing my hands together.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. We're going to go to the fans' thoughts first of all on this. Were United better off without Rooney? We initially asked this after the Liverpool game. We're going to continue it on to the PSV game as well. Now, just to give you the fans' thoughts, first of all on this, 100% of the fans, Nick, who voted on this, said no, we were not better without Rooney.
Yeah. I approached this from two angles.
Go on.
For the Liverpool game, I was very happy that they didn't start and we won the game 3-1. For the PSV game, I probably would have started him just because it was a European night away. That's the only reason I would have thrown him in there. He offers experience. He'll bring a calmness to the team. I would have put Carrick in there as well. I would have just filled the team with as much experience as I could. So on that behalf, I would have started Rooney for the PSV game. I wouldn't have bothered with the Liverpool game.
I mean, what, if anything, did you think we did lack without Rooney against Liverpool in particular?
Not a lot. I thought we did everything well. I thought we were very fluid up front. I thought we dominated the game. We dictated it. Schweinsteiger, I've said before, was brilliant. He brought the experience that Rooney would have brought otherwise. I don't know. He just slows the game down for me.
Do we lose that fluidity with Rooney in the team as well? Then, with him being,
he's not as
over the pitch at times. Sometimes back in midfield, you never know where he is. So is it difficult for other players to place themselves on the pitch?
I don't think it's that. I just think when he gets the ball, he just slows everything down. You saw against Liverpool, especially when Martial came on, and when he got the ball, the first thing he wanted to do is feed it off to other players. It was lightning quick, everything about it. They were trying, even against PSV, Mata and Martial were trying to link up round the box. The wingers were coming in. It just looked a lot more fluid, a lot more urgent, and I keep saying that word urgent because something we don't have, and it puts pressure on teams. And Martial was closing down the keeper, that Zut, I think he was called from PSV.
Yep.
He closed him down on 100 miles an hour. Rooney wouldn't have been able to do that.
It's a fair point. We've got a fan on the phone to have a chat through this and through some of the other debates, so he's going to join us here on the Rooney debate. Should be interesting to get some thoughts on this. We've got Chris on the line at the moment. Chris, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, good evening, guys. How we doing?
How's it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Can I just say, first of all the best to Luke Shaw. I know all United fans will be wishing him
certainly.
Recovery, so
absolutely, Chris.
Yeah, get that out there for everyone.
Echoed by all of us in the studio, certainly, and let's hope it's not as bad as it looks, certainly. Chris, we were just on your favourite topic, I think, as it goes currently. I was just firing some questions at Nick on it whilst we were waiting to get you through on the line. First question from the fan takeover. I'm going to dive straight into it because we've got plenty to chat through you with here.
Certainly have.
Were United better off without Rooney in the Liverpool game? And we'll add on in the PSV game if you think any difference there as well.
I think a fit, firing Wayne Rooney is a massive benefit to Man United, irrelevant of who else is available for the club. Against Liverpool, in the first half, we were shocking. We really were. But especially against PSV, we could have done with his European experience up front.
I mean, the one thing I was just about to mention to Nick before you got fired through to us, that I was just about to ask him on, I'm going to ask you on it instead, Chris, is in the PSV game, that challenge on Luke Shaw, you think back to United of old, if you like, the sort of siege mentality, the world against United. If you'd have had the likes of Roy Keane on the pitch or someone like that,
would have broke his legs.
Well, either that or they'd have been certainly straight over to the referee and the UEFA officials, etc. That didn't happen in this game with the Shaw challenge. Now, that might have been down to the shock, but, I mean, do you think, Chris, if Rooney's there, I mean, do you think he's at the referee saying, come on, what are you going to do about that tackle?
He's definitely of that character, maybe not, well, nobody's in Keane's character, but he's got that trait within him, the team mentality, the siege mentality, to really let it be known that was arguably one of the most disgusting challenges I've ever seen.
I mean, it was a shocker, wasn't it? I mean, I personally don't think the intention was there. I mean, that doesn't take away from the fact it was an awful tackle.
I don't think he intended to break his legs, but he intended to take the man and the ball. Yeah. He took both, and it was a stonewall penalty. Even if Shaw, regardless if he got injured or not, he still would have been a penalty. Obviously, with that horrific injury, it adds to it.
I think I can't remember the exact comment, and I don't even know if it was Roy Keane, but the media have been saying if that had happened, he wouldn't have even got to half time, let alone scored that goal.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't have been half time, but he said something of a similar quote. But yeah,
absolutely. I mean, just before we move on to the next question, next sort of debate that we're going to open up here, Chris. What, if anything, do you think we lack without Wayne Rooney on the pitch?
Experience. And
that's it, really.
He's still got that ability to change a game. I know he hasn't shown it, but
I just want to touch on one of your points, Chris, about if we had a fit and firing Wayne Rooney, it'd be a benefit to any club, and I totally agree with that. But when was the last time we had a fit and firing Wayne Rooney?
When we had pace in the side. and I think that's all it boils down to. I think Wayne Rooney lacks pace. He's not the quickest of players. But if he's got players going beyond him, where if he's not in a goal-scoring position himself, he has that ability to find that killer pass, that killer ball.
Well, just one of the things that I said to Andy before we got you on was I noticed against PSV, Martial, he was closing down a lot, and obviously he's lightning quick. And there was a player called Zoot, I think he's from the PSV goalkeeper. Yeah. And Martial, whatever you want to call him, closed him down 100 miles an hour, and it made him obviously make a mistake.
Panic.
Yeah, and we could have scored from it if Schweinsteiger would have had the shot. I think that was it.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, Wayne Rooney couldn't do that. So is there a place up front for him anymore if Martial starts scoring?
What I was going to say on top of that I was just about to ask Chris on myself is, with Chris's point on pace around Rooney making him a better player, is there not a position that Rooney sits just in behind Martial? I mean, what do you think to that?
That was the exact point I was going to make. Martial up top. Mata was shocking against PSV.
I know. I understand that, but I don't think you can judge him off one performance.
He's another guy that lacks pace.
Yeah,
he's got the fine killer ball, but I mean, with Wayne's current injury, he's going to be coaxed in. Maybe playing him in the bigger games, Mata in other games. There's a place for both of them. We're firing on all four fronts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you get fluidity back in the team, there's no reason you can't have Rooney, Memphis and Mata interchanging behind, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
But Chris, let's move on to the next debate, because as I say, plenty for us to fire through this evening. What does the future hold for David De Gea? Of course, returned against Liverpool, against PSV, without anything spectacular. Good reception for him, as you could only expect from United fans. We asked the question, do you believe David De Gea will stay or will he be leaving next summer? Now, 84% of the fans said that De Gea will be staying next summer, in their opinion. Where do you stand on it, Chris?
Well, I'm in that 84% then, because I genuinely believe, I think he's had his nose put out of joint by Real Madrid. They had all summer to come in for him. And, we don't know the ins and outs of it. Again, it's media speculation.
I mean, this is it.
By all accounts, they didn't come in until the 12th hour. And, if David De Gea has caught hold of that, which obviously he's going to have done, he's going to think, well, if they wanted me that badly, why didn't they come in for me mid-June, mid-July? And, the way they run their club is just it's ridiculous, to be brutally honest. I hate that model that they aspire to use.
The circus model, I believe they call it.
Is that what? Yeah, I like that one.
But I mean, it was truly shocking the way that was dealt with, and thankfully, as a result of it, we've ended up with a world-class keeper. One of the best in the world currently.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give a sort of balance to this, because we have had a couple of people who said they thought he was going to leave. Alex AXAS23, of course, Alex Adams from United Stand. He said he'll probably will leave next summer. I'm fine with it, as it means we've got a year to find a replacement, which I think is a good point, even if he does go. He mentioned this, though, which is why I'm sort of coming to the tweet now. He says, I highly doubt the rumours of this £30 million release clause are true. Now, you'd think surely that any buyout clause put in there would have been a lot higher than that. There was actually a response from Neil Custis of The Sun, which was interesting, because there was a sort of bit of an argument, a bit of a debate started on this, and someone said it's absolute garbage, this, and Neil Custis said simply, no, it's not.
I don't think they've got one. I think United would have put a £50 million buyout clause in, or nothing. I don't think it would have been any less than that. I
actually heard his interview. I think it was on Goldstein and Kunde on Talk Sport, and he was adamant that that £30 million buyout clause was in the contract. And he's a pretty good, damn good reporter. Do you know what I mean? He knows everything United. So
I mean, you'd think he'd know his stuff. I mean, journalists have had a bad summer, haven't they? But
yeah, I hope he's wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dream scenario. We get to the Champions League final. We beat Real Madrid. David De Gea stays.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? That's why we get you on, Chris, just for those positive scenarios. But I mean, this point on the 30 million, if it is true, I mean, at Copious Opium, which of course Ryan, who often gets involved in these, and thanks for sending it in, says 30 million far too low, worth at least 80 million pounds. I have to agree. I mean, if you're selling a player of that calibre, you should have put in a big buyout clause if that is the case. I mean,
I wouldn't have put one in. I would have left it as a clean contract.
I personally wouldn't have either.
I don't know of many. I know Fabian Delph, obviously, he got his buyout clause in that recent contract prior to his...
It's usually more of a Spanish thing, isn't it, than something you see in the Premier League?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I only know of it from Football League Manager, do you know what I mean? I'm on the PC, like... But
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I've very rarely heard of it in the Premier League.
Well, I mean, let's hope there's no truth in that one, then. Chris, debate number 3 that we had then this week on Twitter. Have Daley Blind's performances proof that he's a worthy permanent centre-back? Now, I can see Nick's face already on this. He's already had plenty to say on this, let me tell you. But 57% of the fans, Chris, said yes, Daley Blind has proved that he is worthy of being our centre-back. Where do you stand on Daley Blind? Do you think he's worthy of that position?
When he was first named at centre-back, first game of the season, I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? But he's built up a really great relationship with Smalling over early games. Now, because a lot of teams in the Premier League play with one up top, it means really you only need one man marking him, and the other guy can drop. And with Daley Blind playing under Van Gaal a lot more than the other United guys have, for the Holland national team, he seems to understand the way that Van Gaal wants to play. And I think maybe Van Gaal's seen that he could play in that position, tried it, maybe not, just hoping more than anything, and it's worked. So he's not a bad passer of the ball. I mean, against Liverpool, he was the best player on the field.
Yeah, I mean, he's a safe option, isn't he?
He took his goal well. Well, fantastic finish.
Yeah, wonderful goal.
And I think his passing rate, I think it was up near 90%. I know it's not massively forward passing, but he just gives it simple. And if he's giving it simple to a more creative player, then that's only beneficial for United.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you made the point, Chris, about one up front now, which of course has become.
Swansea play one up front.
Everyone's playing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Of course they do.
Didn't he have him all over the pitch, Gomez, like a ragdoll?
I think all over the pitch is perhaps a little bit exaggerated. Yes, he had a bad game against Gomez, of course. But, I mean, at Copious Opium, Ryan got involved on this one and said, can't see any reason to drop him. Everyone used Benteke as the litmus paper for Blind and he passed with flying colours, which I think is fair comment. I mean, yeah, he did have a bad game against Gomez, but, I mean, you were saying, Nick, don't drop Mata after one bad game against PSV. So, I mean,
how many's Blind played there, though?
Well, I mean, how many's Mata played there for United? Yeah. I mean, this is it. I mean,
I just think if you look at United teams of old, we've had world-class centre-backs, and I don't think that's a world-class partnership. I think it has the potential to be if we got someone who was genuinely world-class next to Smalling, and I think that's what United should always aspire to be. You should never settle for the stopgap.
No, I don't mean this to be. I don't mean this to be detrimental, but were Bruce and Pallister world-class centre-backs when they formed a partnership at United?
It's a fair comment. Fair comment.
Over the years, they built up a fantastic partnership. One had the pace, the other stuck his head in and broke his nose several times. And they were unbelievable as a partnership.
I agree.
I just think the Rio and Vidic
You wouldn't class either as a world-class centre half.
I just think we've obviously been spoiled by the Rio and Vidic.
I think we have perhaps been spoiled because you don't see that very often in world football at all. I mean, you look even at the likes of the centre-back partnerships out there even now. I mean, there is nothing that comes close to Rio and Vidic, in my opinion, in world football currently. No,
I mean, people went on about Kale and Terry last year.
I mean, that's now the pinnacle, yeah. So, I mean, it's fair points raised, and I'd also throw in John O'Shea as well. I mean, you think of the games he filled in when we won, various Premier League titles with him playing all over the show. So it can be done. You've got to have those players in there, and Daley Blind is certainly a better John O'Shea, that's for certain. But just with the Shaw injury that you mentioned at the top, Chris, I mean, do you think Shaw's injury has dictated Blind's future role now? I mean, is he going to go back to left back?
Well, it's an either or, isn't it? They can both play
I think he'll play
Blind and Marcus Rocco. Yeah, They can both play either left back or centre half.
Which way round do you think works better?
I thought Daley Blind slotted in at left back quite well last year. I
Yeah.
mean, he had a shocker when he were playing in centre mid, holding midfield, defensive midfield, whatever you want to call it. You know, I mean, he looked slow, he got caught out, he got caught on the ball, his passing was negative. But then when he went to left back, he actually looked okay. But at centre half, he looks better than okay. So I think against who we're playing may dictate who plays there.
Fair enough. Let's end with this one then, Chris, on the fan takeover side of things. It was simply this. Give us your assessment of Memphis's Premier League performances so far.
Trousers.
This is tough. I think he's done really well, personally. It takes time to settle. It's a big step up from the Dutch League to the Premier League, you know, better quality defenders. They're doubling up on him. But he's got all the ability, all the skills, all the tricks. He's got a goal in him. And I think give him another 3, 4, 5 games, and I think we'll start seeing the best of Memphis Depay.
Yeah, I think he's got to be a bit more protected, Chris. I think obviously he's in the spotlight a bit now, and Van Gaal subbing him at half time probably didn't help his confidence a great deal. So I've started to feel sorry for him a bit.
It was massively needed, that game, I thought.
Yeah, he was very, very poor.
I mean,
It was, yeah.
points made here at Cogsy666, of course, that's Wayne, says, still finding his feet, but he will come good, needs more time. And I think patience could be a key for Memphis. You know, I think dragging him off against Liverpool wasn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, he's starting him sort of every week, though, Chris, putting too much pressure on him.
I think with Martial turning up now, that may take a little bit of the spotlight off him, a little bit of pressure off him. And we've got to remember, you know, we signed a Dutch striker 10, 15 years ago in Ruud van Nistelrooy, who started off rather poorly, and he ended up becoming arguably a United legend.
Yeah, he recovered rather well from the start, didn't he, to say the least.
Yeah.
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, as always. We're going to have to move on. We've got another caller on the line, but thanks ever so much for your time, as always.
No worries, guys. Great show.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
See you later.
Chris.
Have a good one. Cheers. Speak to you later.
Chris, as always, positive United fan on the line, bringing us all up. Morale is now up in the studio. Let's hope we can keep it that way, because we're going to fire through the fan takeover questions with a member of the United stand. You'll see him on there on a Thursday night. That, of course, is Kev. Kev's on the line with us right now.
Good evening.
Evening,
How's
Kev.
it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. We've got some absolutely brilliant questions for you here, Kev. So I'm just going to dive straight into the first one. Just try and get some ideas and opinions together on where you're at the moment. So I'm going to start you off with this one, Kev. In your opinion, were United better off without Rooney in the Liverpool game?
Oh, what a great question. Were they better off without him? Personally, I think a fully fit Rooney in the number 10 position, I don't see how you can sort of, I think, to miss out on a player like that. But I mean, I suppose if you're looking at the result on Saturday and how we went about it, then yeah, I think we probably played better without him than, you know, the way he has played it in that team at the minute. So I think I would tend to agree at this minute in time.
I mean, if he was to come back into the team, Kev, I mean, we were just having this chat with Chris, who was on the line a moment ago. If you stick Martial up front and Rooney in behind, I mean, is that something that you could see working? And if so, who's missing out?
Well, I think it's a dead cert. If Rooney's fit, he's Van Gaal's captain. I think he walks straight back into the team. Now, I don't totally agree with that at times. I don't think anyone should be sort of untouchable and be able to walk into a team. I'm a bit of a believer that you should be in there on merit and performance. So, but I think Rooney will walk back in, and the fall guy, I would assume in that role, would probably be Juan Mata, which is a shame because I know he's played a game there now in that number 10 role, but I think that's where he's probably at his strongest.
Absolutely. Maybe it'd be a shame to see Mata depart, wouldn't it, for Rooney, as you say, but he does seem untouchable. So it'd be interesting to see where that one goes. I'm going to move you straight on, Kev, because we've got a lot on here. But I want to get your opinion on the Daley Blind situation. This has caused all sorts of controversy in the studio, all over Twitter. Have Daley Blind's performances proved he's a worthy first choice centre-back for United? I said earlier, Kev, 57% of the fans said that, yes, he has proved that he's worthy, so it has divided the fans. Where do you stand on it?
I must admit, and I hold my hands up, at the start of the season when he was playing Blind in that position pre-season and before we started the Premier League season, I think I was one of them fans that was getting worried. And looking ahead to that Tottenham game, first game, I was thinking Harry Kane would show him up physically, and obviously he's not the quickest Daley Blind. We've seen him playing midfield, and he got shown up a bit for his pace. But I hold my hands up. I think alongside Chris Smalling, he's been absolutely fantastic. And definitely because he's played that central midfield role, he's very good on the ball as a defender. Obviously now with the injury to Luke Shaw, Blind is probably going to get pushed out on the left. But as a centre-back this season, I don't think he's done himself much harm, really, because he's definitely shown that he's a player that can play in that position for United.
Absolutely. With the Shaw injury then, Kev, just on the back of that then, who plays centre-back, who plays left-back now? Do you keep Blind as your centre-back? Do you play Rojo at left-back? Which way around are you going on that one?
I think it might have given us a bit of an inkling from the other night when the change was made, and I think he's going to be more looking maybe at getting Rojo in beside Smalling now and pushing Blind out onto the left. And Blind, I suppose, will offer you something coming forward. Like I said, he is good on the ball, and I'd be quite interested, as well as Blind has actually done. I do like Rojo, and I think he just gives us that bit of steel as a centre-back pairing at the back alongside Chris Smalling, who is also very good on the ball. So I think on Sunday, I think that's definitely the way that's how I see us lining up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to end on this point then, Kev, that's sort of been brought up recently about Memphis, of course, doing it in the Champions League, but not doing it in the Premier League so far. Now, a couple of people on Twitter, because we just asked people to give their sort of assessment on Memphis so far. We got Ermston Lord MUFC saying Memphis is a prospect, he's trying too hard. LVG will look after him, he'll become class. And at Sydney _MUFC gives him a 6 out of 10, says not great, not bad, just fine to be fair. Nothing wrong with that. He has all the tools to succeed. Now, it certainly seems that way. There's an interesting point made by Ronald Koeman back in June when we signed him. Of course, Southampton manager who were playing this weekend, and he said that he'd learnt whilst he was in England that Dutch players can't often enough make the jump to the top of the Premier League easily. Now, with a £25 million price tag on Memphis, should there be a certain expectation? And do you think, Kev, that he's going to fulfil that?
I think it's probably us as supporters and fans that would put expectation on a player like that. Obviously, you mentioned the £25 million fee, and in today's world of football, we expect him to hit the ground running. Now, in respect to what you say there about the Champions League games, the two games that he played well in, no disrespect to Club Brugge, but we weren't up against top opposition, and he did have he did play well. PSV the other night, I thought he did all right, but again, I think it's a work in progress with Memphis. And like you say, a lot of these Dutch players that come over, sometimes it takes some time. If anything, it's probably the only league in the world where players really struggle with the pace and the physical side. But what I will say in his defence is that Memphis, just to look at physically, seems definitely equipped for the Premier League. And I don't think there's any doubt that he's also got the pace. I think it's probably just going to take him time to get into his rhythm. And I think there's a lot of players in the United squad at the minute who are kind of finding their feet, and we've had a lot of players leave, and there's a lot of players trying to get to know each other's game at the minute, and I would probably expect it maybe to take about 10 games into the season before you see that understanding from the training and what they do on the training pitch to sort of mirror onto the Saturday afternoon then in the Premier League. So I definitely, he just needs a bit of time, and I'm sure sure he'll be a success at United. He's
Definitely.
big enough to take the number 7 shirt. For me, he's got the swagger to carry that on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with what you're saying, and certainly in terms of the way he's built, you know, he certainly has the physical presence, as you say, you know, to do it in the Premier League, it seems. Just one line on this one, Kev, before we do let you go. I just want a prediction on the Southampton game for Sunday. Southampton versus United. What's your score prediction, Kev?
A very tricky game. I'll keep it short, though. I am positive, always positive when it comes to United, and after midweek, I think we'll be right up for this. So I'm going to go for a nice 2-0 victory. 2-0,
love it. Kev, thanks as always for your time. You can catch Kev on the United Stand show. That's on tonight, isn't it, 9 o'clock?
Yeah, it is 9 o'clock. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you'll probably be catching this. Well, it won't be live, but do give it a listen. It's a great show. And Kev, we appreciate your time. Thanks ever so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, lads. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Take care.
Cheers.
So that was Kev from the United Stand with his opinions. We've had some great opinion there from Chris and from Kev this evening. But next up, it's time to switch the light back onto Nick and I. It's the Shootout. Well, we put the fans under the spotlight. Now, producer Joe is going to put me and Nick under the spotlight. Welcome back, Joe.
Hi, are you all right?
Yeah, very good.
Keep me busy tonight.
Very busy indeed. Now, for those of you new to the show, every week, 5 questions. It's the same format. It's 2 for Nick, it's 2 for me, and it's one that goes back to producer Joe and the fans because, of course, Joe knows it can't be a shootout without 5.
Well, at least you counted for me, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm consistent, if nothing else.
Well, exactly.
So I believe the first question is back for me again this week, Joe. So whenever you're ready to
you
fire,
know what? In all my madness, I've not actually got the question up. So
whenever you're ready to fire,
so
I am
you just
ready
carry
to
on
answer.
talking.
So amateur.
He was doing so well as well. Very sleek, very slick.
Well, it's really gone wrong.
It's on the piece of paper
right,
you've got.
Right, okay. So, Andy,
there you go.
This one is for you.
There we go.
I've got it for you.
Okay.
LVG said this week he doesn't know if we're going to challenge for trophy this season. My question to you is, we've touched upon this before, but do United lack serious ambition?
So it's a difficult one, this, because with getting rid of the deadwood, I think, comes this sort of thing that fans think we are lacking ambition. I don't think it's so much that. I think we've just had to have that clear out. And in doing so, I just don't think we've got the replacements in that we thought we were going to get at the time. The media has been partly to blame for that. But I do think we've been left with a squad that does leave us, in the end, limited on our ambitions going forward for the season. So, yes.
Just about.
There is a 30-second time limit, of course, on these questions, just to explain for those who are new to the show.
Just to expand on that, so are you thinking that the ambition is lacking just this season, or is it gonna? Do you think that LVG's got a problem with the next 3 seasons? In that horrible word, I'm not even going to say it.
Don't, because you'll be putting money in the swear jar. But I think it's short term. I think it's ended up looking like a lack of ambition, as I say, because we've missed out on some big name targets that were being thrown around, and because we've got rid of some deadwood, we have left ourselves short in certain positions. I think it's all part of LVG laying foundations for the next manager, in my opinion, more than anything. And so I do think in years to come our ambitions will realign with what United should be. I just think at the moment we're having to be sort of at a level where we accept that we aren't currently going to be challenging for the Premier League title, and we aren't going to be good enough for challenging in Europe. That's just currently where we are. I don't know how you feel on it, Nick.
I disagree. I think
you're very disagreeing tonight, aren't you?
I think we're Manchester United, and
we'll do what we want.
Exactly. You know, the amount of money that we've made in sponsorship deals, we should be getting these players in. There's no excuse. Antoine Griezmann was out there this summer. Otamendi was out there. These players would have improved our squad. There is no excuses. Our rivals have got Otamendi. Our rivals have spent big on Sterling. Our rivals spent big on De Bruyne. We didn't. There's no excuses. All this crap about it's a process. We're not there yet. It's rubbish. If we spend the money, we'll get them in. Simple
So,
as that.
But would that fix us straight away? Do you think if we brought these players in, then we would straight away be...
I think we'd finish higher than what we're aiming for this season.
I'm not sure we would. I mean, if you look at what happened when we did try and show ambition in the market, it didn't translate to ambition on the pitch because Di Maria had no backbone and Falcao was a total oversight in terms of a medical.
You just mentioned our rivals then as well, and you look at City when they first started going through that transition. It didn't work for them straight away. They did finish 7th, I think, was the first year. And I think it took them a while for their players to start gelling together. And I think if we didn't start building on it slowly, then straight away we'd lose structure and we'd just go back to the United we've seen for the last 2 seasons.
I just think we've got a very good spine in our team at the moment with the goalkeeper, with Chris Smalling, with very good midfield. And I think if you got the right attacking players around them players with the young ones that we have like Martial and Pereira, we would flourish. And I just don't I was very disappointed with the summer. I've said that before. Net spend of about 7 million. There's absolutely no excuses for it.
I don't think you are disagreeing with me then, Nick. I think you're just saying you're disagreeing for the sake of it because I'm saying United are lacking ambition.
We are.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying
I just
that
thought
we
this
have
summer
because of the way we've gone.
We get promised a lot, and I just thought this summer we were going to spend big. I thought we were going to do this. We're going to eclipse the Di Maria deal, and that is modern football.
I'm saying we are where we are because of those mistakes made.
We have the players are available out there, and there is a lack of ambition, and it's all pushed under the rug for crap like it's a process and it takes time. No, it doesn't take. If we get the players in that score the goals, and we get these world class players in, we will challenge for titles, we will challenge for Champions Leagues, but we don't.
So Nick, with you mentioning players like Otamendi going to different clubs, I've got my next question to you, which is kind of reliant on defence. So, do you find it worrying United fans are starting to come round to the idea Blind can be a long-term centre-back option? I think we've heard plenty of that one today, so I know what the answer's going to be.
Yeah, I find it worrying. Obviously, we've been spoilt in the past by a lot of the things that we've had, but he's not a long-term option in my eyes. I think he's a very good stopgap. He's an improved version of John O'Shea, who we mentioned before. But against the bigger teams, he will become exposed. If Aguero's firing, he will rip Blind to pieces. It's the same in the Champions League. If Gomez at Swansea can make him look average, what's a better striker going to do to him? I just think there's better options out there this summer that we failed to get.
Fair enough.
I don't think we've got much to add to that, have we? I think we have covered Daily Blind.
Done it to death.
Yeah,
all over the pitch tonight. So I think we'll move on to question 3 if you don't mind, Joe.
So moving on to, there's no link here, but Andy, how do we continue with Memphis's average performance? I hate saying that. Who wrote this?
You've got Nick to blame for that one.
How do we continue with Memphis's average performances in the Premier League until we give Pereira, Young or Lingard a chance?
Good question.
Thank you.
So I made the point earlier about Memphis and said that in terms of the Premier League, he isn't doing it. His decision-making has been poor, too predictable, and he's not providing the width that we need, nor the pace, even though he has got it. So I wouldn't leave it too long, personally, before I started to throw Pereira in there. I also thought Ashley Young made a massive difference against Liverpool in the Premier League. So I wouldn't give it long at all. I'd be tempted to throw him out this weekend.
I agree with all of that, completely.
Oh.
I know you're not going to be a fan of this, Joe, but I mean, Young, as we mentioned against PSV, he did have a poor game.
It's a team game at the end of the day, and in the 5 Premier League games that Memphis has been involved with, he hasn't done anything of particular class.
I'm gonna actually this one occasion I'm gonna agree that he's young. And it might just be that tad too early.
He is very arrogant. He
might need to be knocked back a bit. Yeah. While an experienced player like Young, who I think has put a performance in when he came on against Liverpool,
bring him down
absolutely ecstatic football. When he came on against any other squad last year, ecstatic football. And I think Memphis isn't really providing that. I just don't think he's not reading the game. That's the problem with Memphis at the moment. He's not seeing where the ball's going. Whereas Young is seeing them spaces, he's running into them. And I think that maybe it's time that Young, as a senior player, takes the younger player Memphis under his wing rather than Memphis being already a well-developed player, because he's not.
You just bring him down a peg. He's a very arrogant player. You bring him down a peg, put Ashley Young in, and it sends a message to Memphis that you're not a main man yet. You need to earn that right.
I don't want a situation where like the Di Maria situation, where he's being played because we know he's talented, but he's not putting in the performances, and fans get sick of him, and we lose another world-class player. So I think Young coming in would mean it takes a bit of pressure off Memphis's back. Yeah, he comes back on even if he brings a few more bad performances. But why aren't these players? He is 21. Why isn't he playing in the youth team before he starts for United? Why straight away?
I think that's a price tag, and the fact he's already played in the Champions League.
I know, but you look at Luke Shaw, played a lot of games in the under-21 team, and look at the world of good it did for him. Absolutely amazing player. I know he's sadly missed now, but it strikes me as a bit. It's one of them situations where you've kind of got to look at would it do better for the club? And I think if you give Memphis a bit of a break from the first team pressure, then yes, I think it would. It
comes down to Van Gaal. He has to make that call.
I wouldn't turf him out, certainly. Yeah, I would give him a break. Almost from the spotlight, because fans expect things very, very early doors, especially when there's a price tag on it, as Nick mentions. But I think the arrogance of Memphis will only do him good in this situation, because unlike Di Maria, he's got a backbone. So I think if he gets dropped, he will go back to training, he will work hard, and he'll come back a better player.
Exactly. Well, he said this in the interview before PSV. He said he's still got time to improve. He knows himself that he's not at his full potential.
He's got the right attitude.
So why not, if he knows himself now that it's not the right time for him, pull him off and get him in the training ground underneath Young, watching him and helping him develop.
I think he's been relied upon too heavily, certainly, but I think he's got a great attitude from what I've heard him speak. So I think maybe just give him a break, just pull him out the limelight for a couple of minutes, just give someone else a chance. And give him a chance to go and get his head down back in training. That'd be where I'd stand, certainly.
Well, like you said, Nick, I think you touched on it. It's LVG, you think, is to blame for this. And
he's linking up again.
Nick.
That link-up play.
So, with this, has your opinion changed on LVG? If Pep or Ancelotti were available, do we still get rid of him?
Yep. It's not changed. It's just a question of his age, you know. If he was younger, I'd give him a bit more time, but he's had 2 years now. He spent a lot of money, and he's coming out with quotes like, "I don't know if we can challenge yet," and it's not really what you want to hear from a Manchester United manager. Fergie would never ever say anything like that. If we win nothing this year, and Pep and Ancelotti are both available in the summer, I would get rid, and I'd push for both of them. It wouldn't bother me a great deal. I don't know how you'd lot would feel.
Bit of rhyme in there just to finish us off, eh?
I know.
No, I actually, I don't know. I put a tweet out, one of my first tweets that I've done on the Red Devil Chronicle page, saying that it's rumoured that LVG could be signing a new contract. And I just wanted to see if fans would back that. I'm not saying I was leaving out if Pep's involved, because he's not currently, if Ancelotti is involved, because he's not. So all these ifs and buts, do we keep Van Gaal? And I think the majority said yes, and I was pleased to see it, to be honest. It was nice. It was more of a refreshing time to see that people are behind the manager still, rather than getting on his back like we did with Moyes. But I think that was kind of always going to come from it.
So that question then you're saying was to the fans, the majority said that they would allow LVG to sign a new contract if he was going to.
Yeah. So I think it was a positive result because we all thought LVG was here for 3 years. I'm hoping that LVG doesn't sign purely because then he can extend his vision, his philosophy, his plan. That's my hope, that's not the reason why. I think that LVG wants to leave a club legend, kind of.
He's already mentioned about Giggs, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And that scared me a little bit.
That's a worrying one, isn't it, going forward?
But would it, if you have a manager like LVG ahead of you and you're learning from him, and then you take over and he does a great job? I mean, you look at Gary Monk at Swansea. I know that's a different comparison altogether.
I'd be very worried if Giggs was our next manager. I'd be very worried, personally. He's got
I understand your point on Gary Monk, but we're looking at a much bigger job. And I think Swansea took a gamble on Gary Monk.
Yeah.
It's worked out because Gary Monk is very strong.
I'd get shivers if Giggs was manager.
I don't even think Giggs is as strong in terms of his charisma as Gary Monk is.
I'd rather have Gary Neville as manager next.
Yeah, I just don't.
Choice.
He seems to lack the charisma. Certainly has the history behind him, without doubt. We're never going to question that.
A great player doesn't make a great manager.
Exactly, yeah. It doesn't always translate straight across. If I was Ryan Giggs, this is great experience for him. You know, as the assistant manager of Manchester United, what an honour. I would go and get my badges done. Go and get management experience at a lower level if you were serious about it, and come back and build your way up.
But like I said, I think that LVG are just hoping that it's not to do with his plan to challenge for the title. I think that I don't want to see an extension purely so he can have more time to win the title at our club.
I don't think it's that. I think he's going to leave after the 3 years. But what I don't like is the fact that Giggs, he was a wonderful player for us. He won so many things. He doesn't have, it's like a right just to take over at United. He isn't a manager yet. He's not ready for that. You don't go straight from being an assistant manager to Manchester United's main man. It doesn't happen.
I agree. Joe, we're going to move on to the final question in the shootout, which of course goes to yourself and goes to the fans as well on Twitter at WeFollowUnited. If you want to get involved in any of the other topics as well, comment below on the video. Let us know what you think. But Joe, you were mentioning about LVG and challenging for the title. I'm going to ask you this as a sort of two-parter, if you like. Firstly, do you agree that we're still miles away from challenging for a title or Champions League? And secondly, if you do so, having spent so much money, why is that the case that we're not up there?
I think I need about 5 minutes on this one. No, firstly, I do not agree that we're miles away from... I see, Nick, you've wrote you'd agree with miles away. But no, I don't agree that we're miles away. I think that it's an odd league. How can you judge in a league where Chelsea are 11 points off the top? How can you judge how far away we are when teams are doing this every season? I think it's a tough league to judge, and I think that we're quite close in terms of how many players we need, and I think a few more star players and we'll have it.
Fair comment. So there you go, Nick. He didn't agree. Don't always assume. But no, I think
wasted 5 seconds of me just arguing.
I think it's fair comment though. I think when you look at the way Chelsea are at the moment, sat in 17th, having comfortably run away with the league last season.
I honestly believe we're not far from challenging for the Premier League.
The favourites to win the Premier League this year, Chelsea.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I don't think we're miles away from challenging for the Premier League. I think we're 100 years away from challenging for a Champions League right now, because I think there's about 7, maybe 8 teams that are currently better than us. But that's the arrogance of British fans. They assume they've got the best league in the world, and I think only one of our teams won this week. So,
well, I mean, when you look at how long it's been since we had success in the Champions League as well.
It's just arrogance, isn't it? Like,
it gets to the point where soon we'll be challenging for third because we'll be losing that spot purely on our success.
Everyone assumes,
we are due to the way it's going.
Everyone assumed that Juve were going to go to the Etihad, had not started well in the league, and they were just going to get absolutely whooped. And it didn't happen. They were a very solid team, good performance, and they got the win.
1-0 down, they came back and beat it. This is the problem, that teams are not afraid to come away to us anymore and attack.
We have an ignorance that we're the Premier League, we're the best league in the world. We're the best league in the world because we're the most competitive league. The best league in the world has the ones with the best players, and the 2 best players are in Spain right now.
Yep. Definitely. We're going to leave it there and move on to the final section of this week's show, which is the weekend preview. We're going to look further into the game coming up against Southampton, of course. But as I say, if you've got any thoughts on any of the questions we just asked from the shootout, do comment below. Do get involved. We're at WeFollowUnited on Twitter. Weekend preview up next. So, Super Sunday takes us to St Mary's and, of course, Southampton. A ground that we struggled at last year, but came away with the 3 points thanks to a man we're now missing, of course, in Robin van Persie. Let's dive straight into this one, Nick. How do you see this one going against Southampton?
This is going to sound really bizarre for me. I'm not that... I'm quite positive about the outlook. They're not a very good team at the moment, Southampton. I think they've lost a lot of players. They're not as solid as they were. People are still thinking of them as they were last season and the season before that. They're not the same team. I think losing Schneiderlin was massive for them. Obviously, Klein's gone as well. I'm very optimistic and I'm confident we can get a result there, personally.
No, I'd be inclined to agree with you. I mean, you look at the start they've made. They've only won 1 game out of the opening 5.
They're not the same team.
So. And 3 draws. Like, they are lacking consistency. And as you say, Nicky, I think that comes down to, again, the fire sale of players that seems to take place far too often.
Them. Like, last year, they got a bit carried away. They lost a few players and it's not affected us. This year, you're seeing the pros of it. It is affecting them.
Without doubt. So, I mean, let's look at how we can line up against them to get the win then. I mean, you're feeling positive, Nick. I've put out my team of who I'd want to start. So I'll fire with my 11 first.
Yep.
See what you have to think about this one. I've gone David Hare in goal, of course. Darmian, Smalling, Rojo and Blind I've gone as the back 4. I'm playing Rojo as the centre-back because I think Blind did a perfectly fine job as left-back on the whole last season. I thought he was very good in some games. Although it's a shame to break up that partnership, that's the way I'd go with it personally. Schneiderlin, don't know what he's done wrong at United. Don't know if he said something to LVG recently. Where he's been, I don't know. I know he played a lot during the international break, but I'd be bringing him straight back in against his old club. I know Van Gaal likes that, so I'm sure he'll be there, and rightly so. I'd have Carrick holding alongside him. I mean, the stats will only tell you win games when Michael Carrick plays. So I'd have those two as holding. I think that's going to provide a potentially rocky back four with Rojo coming back in. Obviously still slightly unfit and not game ready. I think those two in front will provide very, very adequate cover indeed. I'd then keep with Mata. I'm going to shift him back out to the right for this one though. If Rooney is back fit, I'd be sticking him as the number 10. I'm going to go for Young on the left-hand side. As I mentioned earlier, thought he was brilliant against Liverpool, totally changed the dynamic of the game. And I'm going to stick with Martial up front. I've been very impressed, especially against PSG, what I saw of him. His hold-up play, spinning in behind. He's got loads of pace to burn. He's stretched the pitch against a bang average out of form Southampton. I don't know how you stand against that 11. Any change?
It's a good 11, but mine will obviously be slightly different to yours.
How would you change that one?
De Gea would be a net for me. I'd have Darmian, Smalling, Blind at centre half. I wouldn't mix it up. I'd leave it as it was and put Rocco on the side.
Fair enough.
Left back. I'd keep the same middle two, Snyder and Carrick, even though Schweinsteiger was brilliant against PSV.
He was superb, but
I think he needs a rest. Yeah, I think we'll both agree on that.
Yep.
So I would start Snyder and Carrick. I would play Mata instead of Rooney in the central position again.
Okay.
And I'd play Pereira on the right wing, Young on the left wing, and Martial up front.
Okay, interesting. So Pereira gets in on yours. That's
yeah. I just think you need to give these kids a chance. I've been saying it all show, and against the bang out of form Southampton team, who if you throw pace at them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I love Pereira. I want him to be given a chance. I'd be tempted to start him on the bench and maybe bring him on 60 minutes in, something like that. But I can certainly see why you'd want him involved in it. But I mean,
and obviously, if we leave the likes of Memphis and Rooney on the bench, we've got experience and
got
quality to bring on.
To come on that can change the game, which is what we were missing.
Yeah.
No, completely agree with that. If you've got anything different you've got to say, by the way, on Twitter or listening in now to that team that Nick and I have suggested, let us know who you want to start. As I say, at WeFollowUnited on Twitter. Nick, in terms of this game, it's a tough one going away, to any ground. I'd say we had a tough one there last season. Is it a must-win game already, this one?
Yep. We need to keep pace. The longer we keep pace with City, the better it looks for us in the league. I've said before, I think we're in a battle for top 4 again, personally. So if we can keep within a breath of City, I think we're doing really well. So yeah, it is a must-win game in my eyes. We have to win it. And
important as well to keep momentum going. I know obviously we had the knock midweek, but that win against Liverpool was massive.
Yeah.
As average and poor as Liverpool were, let's not paper over the cracks, but
they're still a better team than Southampton.
Absolutely. So. And to come off that win and currently sat in third place as well in the league. We're not too far out of touch. If City have a slip up, they won 5 out of 5. You can't do any more than that.
If you keep within touch of them this season, you are going to finish really high in the table.
Absolutely. Now we've mentioned it, Nick. If Rooney is fit, does he play? I've included him, and you're saying you wouldn't.
Yep.
It's a huge call to throw Rooney on the bench. That's from our opinions. Do you honestly see LVG?
No. My opinion is I wouldn't play him. You know my history with it. I don't like him. I know 99% of United fans would play him, and I can understand why they play him. He's the captain at the end of the day. LVG's not going to make that call. He will start him. Mata will probably be dropped, and Memphis will probably start left wing. You'd imagine Martial might be go right wing, and he won't surprise me if he puts Herrera back in number 10 role.
Yeah. Now let's talk about briefly then the Southampton players, of course. We've mentioned about the way we could set up against them and what threat we could carry. What threat does Southampton carry against us?
Well, they've got, I think the replacement that they got in for Klein was Cedric, is it?
That's right.
A young Portuguese. Apparently he's really quick, so obviously anything with pace is going to obviously threaten you. They've got Jordi Classy in the midfield. I don't know how he's been doing this year.
I think he's out injured at the moment.
He's out injured?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well he'll be a loss for them then.
He'll be a massive loss.
James Ward-Prowse, if they can get him on the ball, he's a very dangerous player, but the problem with him is getting him on the ball. He seems to go missing in games. I saw Letizia saying on Sky Sports, technically he's very gifted.
Wonderful player to watch.
But he does disappear. And they've got the big man up top in Graziano Pella, who's always going to cause problems, especially with Little Blind in the middle.
Now, Pella did score against us in last season's fixture at St Mary's, but I don't know if this is just me, but I've watched quite a lot of Southampton last year, and I thought Pella, after the initial settling in period where he was incredible, everything he touched went in.
Yeah. He
went through a really barren spell, and I don't think he's ever recovered from it.
He looks like a cheaper version of Giroud in my eyes. Just a big front man. Once the defenders figured out what he plays like, he was sort of completed, then he was sorted out. He'll get you a goal or two, he might get you 10, maybe 15 goals, but he's not a striker to be feared in the league. But like I said, if they can get James Ward-Prowse on the ball and they can get balls into the box from Mane, who's obviously their main man at the moment, they will cause United problems. I think Ronald Koeman will approach this the same way the PSV manager did, Philippe Cocu. They'll sit back, they'll let us have all the ball, they'll wait for us to make a mistake, and they'll get Mane and obviously that young right back they've got, who's got bags of pace, and they'll try and hit us on the counter.
And, of course, Wanyama, central midfielder, he's ended up staying, didn't force a move to Tottenham, of course. So he'll be looking
There'll be a battle in the middle of the park as well.
Enforcer to break up the play, won't he? Certainly.
I wonder if Schneiderlin gets a good reception.
Well, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, he came through from League One with them, so... Yeah. And Southampton, to be fair, their fans are a very, very good set of fans.
Yeah, they're quite a solid club, aren't they?
I'd be very surprised if Schneiderlin did get booed. But, you know, we've seen Stranger.
Yep.
But it will be a very interesting battle. And with Wanyama as that enforcer in midfield, is that a reason to perhaps throw someone like Fellaini, dare I say it, in there?
No.
To try and deal with him?
No. You bring Fellaini on later on if we need a goal, personally. You know, like I mentioned before, if Rooney doesn't start and we have him on the bench, and we have Memphis on the bench and Fellaini on the bench, we've got depth on the bench for once, something that we've not had this season, and we've got pace and urgency on the pitch, something which we've not had this season. So...
Okay. Well, we're going to end with the score predictions on this, but I'm going to bring producer Joe back in.
I forgot about that bit.
Yeah. We're going to go through our score predictions because, of course, we've got the predictor lead, which I need to update and see where we're up to.
Who won last week? Did any of us win?
I don't know. I was having a look at it, and I'm sure someone said 3-1 United. I'll have a look through it, and it will be posted this week on Twitter, because I know I was top, so I need to post that so that I'm on top. But
okay, all right.
Joe, you wanted to mention something before we go into these score predictions. There was something you had for us on RVP, I believe.
Oh no, I was just saying. I was coming back to the players who kind of influenced the game last time out, and I was thinking all these players that were slating are the two that made the goals last year for us.
Good ground, St Mary's for RVP.
Yeah.
That hat trick in his debut season.
Yep, and the two last year, two moments of brilliance to win the game.
So we're definitely going to miss him.
We are going to be sadly lacking. So I mean, without RVP in the squad now, of course, Joe, and with him scoring the 5 goals in the last 2 seasons at St Mary's. What's your score prediction? How confident are you feeling?
I don't know. It depends. It all depends on the squad, and I think it's a tough one. 2-0 United.
2-0 United, says Joe. Nick?
3-0 United.
3-0 United. Wow. Where do I go after following this? It's been very positive.
1-0 Andy.
It's all Chris coming on. That's where it's come from.
Yeah, no. I mean, I am feeling confident against Southampton with the way that they've played so far, but you just know that teams are always going to step it up against United. I'm going to have us down to edge it 1-0. I think I genuinely don't think there'll be a lot in it. Southampton have drawn 3 of their 5 games.
Memphis
opening.
goal, assisted by Rooney.
From the bench.
Martial goal, assisted by Pereira.
Perhaps. We shall see. So we've got 1-2 and 3-0 in the studio, all to United, so we're trying to keep positive. If you've got any thoughts on your score predictions, do get them in again. Comment below on the video, at WeFollowUnited on Twitter. It's 1 point for the correct result, 3 points if you get the correct scoreline. As I say, I will get around to that and post that to see where we're up to at the moment on Twitter. Thanks ever so much for listening tonight. It's been an absolutely whirlwind of a show, but it's been brilliant. We had some great opinions, a bit of disagreement at the start, great debates as always, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Into space and Rooney. That's a ball back pass. Van Persie's in. Robin Van Persie! 1-0 Manchester United.